think it's working. All right, I think we are live. Hold on, let me go look. It's now streaming live on Facebook. Let me double check because we've been having some issues. Okay, there we are. We're side by side on Facebook. Finally.
What?
Let me turn myself off now.
All right.
All right, we are there and you are tagged. So let's roll. All right, guys, thanks so much for popping on and thanks for being patient. We are 45 minutes later than scheduled, but we had massive technical difficulties that I won't keep you any longer and bore you with. But we're here, and my name is Bree Richardson, and I'm here with Sean Loomer, who is a hemp and CBD world whole plant-based products and life expert. So we're just going to kind of grill him today. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
All right. So I want to start just out of the gate, and I want people to realize that we're gonna kind of be talking about the difference, not only what to look for in CBD, but the difference between the oil and whole flower fluid. Okay, so right off the gate, if you could kind of just give us a rundown on, is it the same thing? Will you get the same benefits? What does it look like?
Yeah, well, it's a pretty loaded question, and because oil is really what's known, right? Oil has been what has been brought to the forefront in the news, media, etc. So CBD oil that most people are familiar with, at least hearing of CBD oil, is very different than what I think we're going to talk a little bit about, our whole flower fluid that we've been utilizing for the last 5-6 years. And so there's some basic differences. So CBD oil is typically extracted from 9 times out of 10, it's extracted from what's called isolate or industrial hemp isolate. And what they're doing is they're taking out a little bit of this plant that's not that great to start with, and they're isolating out CBD, and they're pulling out and creating an oil. And they're doing this through different types of extraction, but they all use chemicals, which is not very cool. So they use these chemicals and they extract this oil from the plant. They don't get a lot. And so they have to add in other oils, other what are called carrier oils. Not that those are bad, but like maybe a coconut oil or an MCT oil, what have you. And really they're doing that for a couple of reasons. One, to fill their bottle up because they really have such a small amount of CBD that they've even extracted in the first place. So they're filling up the bottle with other ingredients, other oils. And when you're using this oil, it's oil. And our body's mostly water, right? It's not oil. And so typically you'll see these CBD oil products ask you to take them sublingually under your tongue. And typically, Bree, it's the entire dropper. It would, on average, most CBD oils, that would be considered a dose. So you would take this dropper, which is 20 drops, and you would just drain it under your tongue and you would hold it. Maybe 90 seconds, 2 minutes. It depends on what product it is. And hopefully you're not drooling it out by that time. And you're doing this because they're trying to get the body to absorb it because it's oil. Well, the reality is that these CBD oils are really absorbing, I'll be nice here and say 6 to 10% is all the body's really taking in of that oil. And the challenge with that is, obviously, it's not very high. And so you're using a lot of something to try to get whatever you can into the body to allow it to do what it's going to do. What we work with, what we discovered through a gentleman 5-6 years ago, was he had figured out a way how to extract plants, any plant, by the way, not just a hemp plant or cannabis or whatever you want to call it, any plant on this planet. And he developed a way of not having to use chemicals to extract. And the end result was that it's more of a fluid. It's completely what we call water compatible. And so when you dose it or use it, you would simply take a couple of drops. You could just drop it right on your tongue if you want. and you don't even really swallow because it just absorbs, it dissipates right away. And you could do that, you know, on the tongue, under the tongue if you want. You could drop it in your water if you want. You could put it on topically. You could put it on the pet's food, but it's instantly in. And so the biggest differences really are that oil is oil. This fluid, it feels a little oily, but it's really more just of a fluid. And you can always test that, Bree, by just dropping it in. You know, I don't have any right in front of you. You just drop it in a glass of water, and you can just go like that, and you'll see it just dissipate immediately. Whereas CBD oil, when you drop it into water, it's going to float. It's going to get real murky, or it'll just float at the top.
I actually saw the craziest thing this last week. Someone sent me a video of a product, and it was supposed to be water-soluble CBD. Sean, it sank to the bottom. Like literally the whole thing sank. I was like, oh my gosh. And like in a street, like in a line, like it was kind of like, almost looked like a metal. It was crazy. It was really crazy. But
yeah,
so,
it's weird. It really is.
Yeah. So one thing that I had tried CBD oil in the past, and like I didn't really see any results. And some people I've talked to that actually do like CBD oil and they're seeing results from it. One thing that I've noticed is it took a couple of days before they started seeing results from their oil. How come with the fluid? Because once I tried it, I had a pain in my back, and within, I would say 2 minutes, if that, the pain had subsided. I like was literally trying to make it hurt whenever that happened. How come it's the instant relief versus like the days of the buildup?
Well, I mean, everyone's different, right? And so, but let's just talk about why you experience that. And our bodies are all similar, but we're a little bit different. And for some, well, here's the sad part about this is that these people are using these CBD oils, these isolate products, and most of the time there's very little medicinal value. And some are better than others, right? Some are kind of okay, but for many people, they just don't experience what they were hoping to accomplish. With what you experienced was that because it's the whole flower, the whole plant, which is a whole nother conversation. It's not an isolate, meaning it's not just CBD, Bree, it's CBD, it's CBDA, it's CBG, it's CBN, it's all the terpenes, which is the essence, you know, of that plant. It's the flavonoids, it's everything encompassed. It's the plant, it's the way nature made it, right? And nature's really efficient, nature's really smart. And when you stick with nature and try not to change it, that's where we always seem to mess things up, when we, you know, think we're smarter than God or smarter than Mother Nature, and we kind of mess things up. And so when you use the whole thing, your body instantly knew, Bree, what to do with it and where it wanted it, and which goes into a kind of another conversation about why that is. Yeah. You know, why does it do what it does, and then how does that really work with the human body?
Yeah, that was my next question. How does it know? Like, you know, I have friends that some use it for migraines, some use it for mental health, like anxiety and depression, some use it for arthritis, some use it for, you know, stomach issues. How come, or how can this one product help so many different issues?
Well, okay, so let me back up for a second. When they discovered CBD back, you know, in Israel, by the way, Israel kind of figured this all out. We kind of dropped the ball in the US. It was illegal to really research these plants and study them. And Israel picked it up. They discovered CBD. And then they also discovered something I think even bigger than that, Bree, and that is they discovered the endocannabinoid system, which is shocking to me. So it'll be called ECS, endocannabinoid system. So all these amazing, smart people on this planet, experts and doctors and scientists, they all knew that we had an immune system and a nervous system and an endocrine system, but no one knew we had an endocannabinoid system in our body. And so this was a huge, huge discovery. And so what happens is we have these receptors throughout our body, and they're actually looking for these cannabinoids. This, I'll say CBD, but there are other cannabinoids, right? As we were mentioning. So your body knows what it needs. And this endocannabinoid system is like the master communication system of all the networks in your body, of all those other systems, the immune system, the nervous system, endocrine system. It communicates and really connects the dots to everything. And so when that happens, the body starts to function better. So really, the reason why people should be taking what we're discussing, like a whole plant, a whole flower, is because you want your body to everyone's seeking homeostasis, right? It could be through food, it could be through supplementation, it could be through yoga, meditation, whatever it is. Everyone always wants that perfect thing, right? And so to get the body in balance. And that's what real CBD, when all together with the other cannabinoids, etc., that's what it does. So first and foremost, before people should use it to accomplish, I have a migraine, or I have seizures, or I have pain, or whatever it is, everyone needs to understand something. And you may not hear the FDA or anyone else speak it this way, but it is a supplement. CBD, or this whole flower fluid, it is absolutely a supplement that all of us need to take every single day. We should be using this. Why? Because our body is seeking it. We've been deprived of this for many, many years. And so when all of a sudden these receptors start to get filled or hit, things start to change in our body. They start to operate. They become more efficient. It's just very interesting to observe. And so first and foremost, we all should take it just to balance our body, our hormones, everything. So our body's going to work better and communicate better. Then second after that would be, what do I need to accomplish? And that, Bree, is where some people are going to feel it differently than others. So let's say you had that pain in your neck, right? And let's say you tried a CBD oil and it didn't do anything for you. Or maybe eventually it might have done something, right, over time. When you tried this whole flower, this whole plant, it had everything that the body was seeking. It wasn't missing any parts. And so you felt something pretty quick. Now, that's not always going to happen, right, for everyone. That'd be super cool. But sometimes it'll take you a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes. It may take someone a couple of days, could take them a couple of weeks, could take them a couple of months, depending what's going on, you know what I mean, in their body and what they're specifically trying to accomplish. So we are similar but different. But if any CBD, hemp, whatever you want to call it, is going to work, it would be the whole thing. You need the entire plant. And unfortunately, almost every CBD oil product out there, they don't do that. It's number one, they don't even know how, many of them, and it's super cost, it prohibited for them to do it that way, because we're talking about real plant medicine, not just some, hyped up thing that people have heard about.
Yeah. So what about if you have an oil that says that it has the terpenes in there? Is that the same kind of thing, or is that different?
Well, I call that trickery. And here's why. So marketers are marketers. Nothing against the marketers. It's no judgment. It's all from love. But listen, let's just be transparent. They do what they can get away with for as long as they can get away with it, and then they change based on what's come down on them to stop doing it. Mm-hmm. They can say things like terpenes, but they're not from what they extracted. It's not from that plant, that isolate. They're adding in terpenes from other things or other plants, and that's not how it works. I mean, that's not what nature does. You can't just add a new person. And so it'd be kind of like, I don't know if you like sports or not, but let's say a basketball team, when LeBron James went to the Lakers, famous basketball guy. Well, when they got there, they couldn't win once he got there because he didn't know how to play with that team. It's the same thing. A plant, all of it, as one, it grew up together. It was raised together. It knows all the moving parts within itself of who does what, when, what, and how. And you can't just bring in a new plant and add it in, or something from another plant, and think that's not nature. That's why it doesn't work. But they do that, they add in these they'll say terpenes, but all they're doing is they're trying to hype up the number of maybe milligrams, or fill the bottle, or simply just to say, we have terpenes. It's like you mentioned earlier, a water soluble CBD that you checked out. They can also get away with saying something is water soluble if maybe one of the other ingredients is water soluble that they add in, which is nonsense. There's that. Most that say water soluble will do what you experience, where it's not water soluble. And so the ones that we've even looked at over the years that claim that, they don't test out. There's no CBD. When you look at the test results, the C of A or certificate of analysis, there's nothing in there. It's really frustrating.
So when people are looking at, I mean, I know the whole flower fluid has a slew of the C of A, so that's something super important to have so you can see if there's CBD even in the product. Yeah. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a special report, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who does those things, I think for CNN or whomever, he came out and he had said, don't even buy, because they tested so many, don't even buy a CBD product if they're not willing to show you the C of A, the certificate of analysis. And that's just an outside lab testing what is in that product, and then what is really in that product. And also in those tests, not only do you get to see, oh, does it have CBD, CBDA, CBG, CBN, terpenes, flavonoids, but it also allows you as a consumer to see that it doesn't have any of, the bad stuff detected, or, heavy herbicides, pesticides, heavy metals, any of that stuff you really don't want to put into the body.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, that's good information because I did not know that. When it comes to talking about whole flower fluid, you did mention milligrams, and that is something that comes up. People will say, how many milligrams are in it? And I think that you do the best job describing why, go ahead. I'll let you just describe the milligram kind of, saga.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to break this down. Okay. So my wife and I, Tylene, right, we've been teaching this plant medicine for about 20 years now. And here's the thing. We've been teaching plant, whole food supplementing, plant-based, all these things, right? And we've always been trying to educate people, whether it was doctors we were working with or whomever, that when you make things synthetically, you're really confusing the body. So let's just talk about vitamin C, because that's super popular, right? It's a common vitamin.
Especially now.
Especially now. And so when you go to buy vitamin C, or if vitamin C is added into your supplements or your vitamins or whatever, most of the time it's going to say vitamin C as ascorbic acid. So, typically someone will go to the doc and the doc will say, hey, you're sick and you need a gazillion milligrams or whatever the number is of vitamin C. And they run down to the local pharmacy and they just buy something off the shelf. Well, the challenge with that is vitamin C as ascorbic acid is not whole. Okay. So this is that nature thing again. It's not whole. It's just part of what a vitamin C molecule really is, like from, a lime or, citrus or blackcurrant fruit, whatever it is, right? It's just not real. And so what happens is they have to pump up the milligram number of this synthetic thing. And by the way, in the United States, typically ascorbic acid is hydrochloric acid and corn syrup, genetically modified corn syrup. And no one watching this Facebook Live right now is corn syrup deficient. That's silly, right? We're vitamin C deficient. And so we don't need to put more of that garbage into our body. That's hidden in so many products and food, whatever. So you want the real thing. So you want it whole. So what happens is you take a synthetic vitamin, as an example, vitamin C as ascorbic acid. Your body's like, I don't even know what this is. This isn't vitamin C. I kind of recognize it. So it wants to, the body's really smart. It wants to complete it, make it whole. So it'll pull from your hair, your skin, your nails. You talk about anti-aging and all those things. It pulls from different parts of your body to complete it so it can figure out how to utilize it. So what they do is that they tell you to take a ton of it, like CBD oil. They tell you to take all these milligrams. It's silly because the body can't use it in the first place. But they're throwing a bunch at the wall, hoping enough of it sticks and that your body will be able to do something with it. So is it better than nothing? Yeah. if we were in a maybe a country or somewhere out in the middle of nowhere and nothing's available, right? If you go into somewhere and there's disease and illness, yeah, ascorbic acid, at least it's something, right? It'll do something as vitamin C, but you don't want to just do something. You're going to spend your time and your money. You want to use real plant medicine. So an orange, you don't know how many, milligrams of vitamin C is in this orange compared to that one, because their sizes are different. Everything's a little bit different, but it's all there. And so less is more, because again, nature is so efficient. And so that's the same thing with CBD. Less is more if you have the whole flower, the whole plant. You don't need to hype up these numbers, because it's trickery, it's marketing. And so everyone asks that question, Bree, when it comes to CBD, because that's how it started in the United States. They were selling years ago, when it started, industrial hemp isolate, and they started marketing that. They were hyping up the milligrams. It started out, 75 milligrams, 100 milligrams, 150 milligrams. And then it was 200, 250, 3. It's like an auction. Do I hear 400, 500, 700? It just kept going up. And it's really comedy. It's so silly. That's not how this works. When you talk about hyping up, so they isolate something and then they amplify that one thing. That's pharma, man. That's drugs. That's how drugs are made. All those pharmaceuticals, typically they came from some kind of plant, right? There was something that worked that they discovered, and then they get in there and they just isolate that one thing out and they amplify it, and then they put it into some type of drug, and people take it, and it kind of covers an issue, right? Sometimes, but at what cost to the body? Those commercials are so crazy, the potential side effects. And so that's pharma, then that's over-the-counter medication, and then there's whole food, whole plant, right, in nature. And so it's really, you can accomplish these things without doing those things, with no bad, side effects to the body. That's a whole nother rippling effect. So hopefully I answered that, but it's just nature when it's whole, less is more, because it's way more efficient. This milligram game, it's silly. It's irrelevant.
Right. Yeah. Because I don't know the last time I ate an orange and was like, how many milligrams of vitamin C am I getting from my orange? I guess so that makes complete sense, because it's whole. We don't talk about that.
Right.
So, that's
right.
So whenever you have a whole plant like that, so there's going to be, if you're pulling the whole plant, you're pulling THC, right? So I've seen these like THC free, but the whole flower fluid has THC. One, how can you have either or? And two, the second end of that question is it enough to make you get high?
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for those that are looking for that. No judgment. So here's the thing. It's a great question. Yeah, great questions, Bree. You really know your stuff. Doing some serious homework. Okay. So also when they started marketing CBD in the beginning, they weren't allowed, this industrial hemp this isolate doesn't have THC in it, right? And so until the Farm Bill passed, like in December of 2018, in the United States, you couldn't legally sell CBD if it had, THC in it. Basically, you couldn't send it over state lines. You had to go to, maybe a dispensary or one of those types of places. And so when the Farm Bill passed, it changed everything. And so the government says, as long as you have less than 0.3 of 1%, so just 0.3 of THC or less, that you're legal. You're considered hemp. The great news about that is that you need some THC to allow CBD, and the cannabinoids, to do what they're fully capable of doing. It's kind of like the power couple. So yes, if you took a bunch of THC, that's what gives people the high effect. But in this case, sorry, no one's going to get high. You're not going to get high, right? We like to say get healed, not high. Excuse me, with this. But so get healed, not high, and it's gonna work together. It works synergistically. But the people that are marketing no THC, first of all, it's silly. But they did it for a reason. Number one, they had to initially. They didn't know any better. And then you'll see like topicals, maybe skincare products and things like that, and like in a Whole Foods or a Sprouts or something store like that, and you'll see no THC. And part of that is because all the states were slowly kind of evolving to the law and the legal and what's good and what's not and what's allowed and what isn't, and then financially, that whole farm bill has really changed the whole financial sector too, because you couldn't use your credit card as an example. So a lot of these merchants, they're very leery to get, because even getting credit card processing historically has been a very big challenge for people, for merchants that are selling CBD. And it's, if they have no THC, it was kind of one step less, I guess. And it was a little safer to them. They were just trying to be more conservative going in. But the reality is you want that trace amount of THC, because that's what's going to allow the plant to do what it's meant to do. That's how it was created. So you would have to change it. So, we're talking like when you're less than 0.3, I mean, you're talking, no one would even know it's in there unless, you didn't say, hey, there's a trace amount in there. No one would know it was there.
Okay. And so for people who are worried about like drug tests, have you ever seen one come up with the trace amount in there come up that, yeah, positive?
Yeah, we haven't, we've been doing this a handful of years. I always tell people, look, anything's possible, I guess, right? I don't want to ever say something and be adamant, no way. And, we don't see it happen. We've done this, tens of thousands of times, hundreds of thousands of times at this point. And however, laws are changing. There are a lot of occupations now that are, and I've seen every type of drug test, done from that you can do. And I remember originally, a handful of years ago, I had myself tested, because I never, used cannabis or marijuana or pot or whatever. I never had done that. And so I was very leery. I don't blame people. I needed to get educated. I had to get over myself, by the way, just come very clean here. I was like, what? I was like adamantly against this years and years and years ago. And so I had to get over myself. As sometimes you have to, unlearn what we've learned so we can advance and become, a little more intelligent, hopefully by getting the ego out of the way, just to say, okay, I might have been told this. I may have been raised this way. I may have seen this on the media, television. This is your brain on drugs, whatever. This plant has been there forever. It's been on this planet. These are God's nutrients, just like, everything else that we deal with from nature and whole food, supplementing or whole foods or raw food, fresh food, plant enzymes. It's all the same when you don't mess with it. So I don't see people testing positive. Anything's possible, but we've done this so many times. In fact, there's a site, Bree, on Facebook where people can go look, and people are posting their test results. Because some occupations, right, it's their career that they just want to make sure they're okay and safe. And so sometimes people, just a little idea, if they're nervous, if someone in their family can test or use the products, use a fluid and then test, because their genetics are pretty similar, just to kind of see if anything showed. Yeah. But with this whole flower fluid, we do it in that kind of that dropper we were talking about earlier, but we also do it in a meter dose spray, which is very interesting. And a lot of people, if they're a little more
working, when our live wasn't working,
yeah,
I was giving my screen.
Perfect. Well, so people who are a little more nervous, they tend to use the spray, but people typically aren't testing positive anyways. And, we've seen hundreds and hundreds of people submit test results just to say, hey, I tested negative. I just wanted to show you blah, blah, blah. So,
yeah. Have you seen anything? It's actually, I think, a new thing, like people testing to see, like they're doing blood tests to see how CBD will help them. Have you seen anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different ways now, right, to test. And I think the biggest thing is really, really want people to understand, and we've been doing this for a while now, is that we all need this because of our endocannabinoid system. I mean, that's the biggest thing. You could get cannabinoids in a small form, right, from other things other than hemp, but we all need this, you know, and that's, I think everyone thinks, I don't say everyone, most people think that CBD, as an example, is to accomplish that one thing. Like I said, sleep or, you know, pain or you know, stomach problems or whatever it is. There's so many things that it'll do. The list is so long because it's so anti-inflammatory, right? That, and we know that all basically can trace back all these diseases and sickness. You can go back and they start over time with inflammation, right? And so anything that's really, really good anti-inflammatory that doesn't hurt you, like you see what's going on out there, you know, with this virus deal. And, you know, what are they saying? And this has been coming out. We've been preaching this, Bree, for 20 years. We've been saying, stop taking these Advils and ibuprofen. Stop taking this stuff because it's just crushing people's, you know, between that and Tylenol, all these products, their liver, right, and their stomach. It's so bad. Yeah, it may make you feel a little bit better, but, you know, we've seen athletes over the years, professional athletes, you know, we've worked with a lot of, you know, NBA, NFL, NHL over the year, all these professional athletes, NCAA, you know, Olympic athletes, blah, blah, blah. And we've seen people who have no alcohol, Bree, they don't even drink. And their livers are those of an alcoholic from taking so many of these over-the-counter anti-inflammatories. And we didn't know. I didn't know that 20 years ago, right? And so we've been kind of looked at, you guys are cuckoo, man. You guys are wacky with these beliefs. It's like, no, this is just what we're not told. And so now what the beauty of all this is people are learning this stuff's, you know, it's coming out. Yeah. And so people can make better decisions.
Yeah, that's kind of one thing that I really like. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this talk is because, you know, even people who love their CBD oil and see the results, they don't know what they don't know, right? And so whenever they're like, oh, I'm only getting 6 to 10%, maybe 15 if it's the water soluble. But whenever you have a product that is 90% absorption rate over that and giving you that whole flower, the whole entire plant, I will say that I started seeing like the CBG oil being marketed started to come out. And so that's two separate supplements, right?
Well, for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they would have left it in there in the first place. But the problem is, so you kind of start out, I'm going to just back up a little bit for everybody. So the first thing is, what are you going to extract? Well, almost always they do that isolate thing I was talking about, this industrial hemp isolate. That's not nature, so to speak. Or are you extracting the real plant, the whole plant, right? The whole flower. So there's that. What are you extracting? And then how are you extracting it? And they're destroying these plants, right? And they're taking one thing, and the way they do this extraction, Bree, is so expensive, you know, to do it in mass production. It's very expensive. So they just do one thing basically, and then they try to add things back in. Well, it just doesn't, you can't do that. And so let's say their CBD is that's what they're going after is CBD. Mm-hmm. Well, what we do, what we pull, and I shouldn't say we, it's not me, the gentleman who discovered this process that we met 5-6 years ago, what they do, his group, is they pull out the entire thing, which is super cool. So the profile of the plant or the flower of these CBD oils looks nothing like the end result product because they're just taking out a little thing. When we do it, we're looking at, when he does it, the profile of the plant, it's almost identical, which is unheard of after the extraction is done, but it's all in there. So CBD, CBDA, which is a very powerful cannabinoid. People are looking at for CBDA and, you know, things like cancer. You can do research on that with CBDA, but CBG, CBN, all these cannabinoids are there. And so CBG is kind of, it's expensive for them to go. And the reason why they're selling and they're trying to market it now, and you'll see more and more of this, Bree, is because it's kind of looked at as the high valued cannabinoid, right? For whatever reason. And it's more expensive for them because it doesn't even exist in a lot of this plant material that they're extracting in the first place. So they have to get different material, and then using their one little methodology of extraction, now they can go get CBG, where you messed it up. They don't get it. So we get the whole thing in the beginning. So we've always had it. We never left it out. You shouldn't have to pay more. It should be included. But they're, just like you said, they're going to sell it separate, and they're going to make it more expensive. It's really just another trickery deal when it comes to marketing.
Yeah. And then if you could talk a little bit, I learned recently just like the cost per dose, because people always are looking at that. We talk about 2 drops here and 20 drops here, and then the cost per dose for each.
Man, you know it all. You really great questions. Okay, this one's super important. Thank you for asking that. And here's why: because it's pretty rare, right? All of us would agree. It's pretty rare to say, I don't know, I'll make up a product, maybe a Ferrari, a car, an expensive car. Okay. It would be rare to find a Ferrari that was less expensive, than all the other cars that are out there. That doesn't make any sense, right? It's super expensive. It's like, it's looked at as, wow, this is so good. So here we are with this whole flower fluid, which has everything in there. And the cost per dose is almost always less than all these other products. I like to use the word poo. I'm sorry. All these other CBD oils they're poo, man. They're just so not very good most of the time. And what's so weird about that, I do want to make this comment, is CBD, our bodies are so deficient that even some of this poo does help some people. I'm not saying that they're not very good, but even not very good, it's so crazy to me how sometimes they do something for people, but that's just because that's how bad our endocannabinoid system is seeking it. So it's crazy. So cost per dose, if you took the average CBD oil is a whole dropper, that's 20 drops. So all you got to do is say, how much should I pay for this bottle? Whatever the price is. And how many doses do I get out of this bottle? Is it 10 doses? Is it 15 doses? Is it 20 doses? What is it? And so because you got to take a dose and just divide the dollars you paid by the number of doses, and you get your cost per dose. And most CBD oils are going to be somewhere between $4 and $9 a dose. I've seen them up to 15, 20, 25 bucks a dose. It's crazy. And so this fluid is so efficient. You only need a couple drops. So you're basically a couple bucks a dose, which is far less. So you're getting a way more, product, a more efficient product. You need way less, because less is more. And we don't need more, and you can use more. And here's what's super cool about this fluid is, with CBD oil, there's a bell curve. If you take too much, you start to lose the effect. So now you've wasted your time and your money. They don't even know how to dose this oil. They're all just shooting in the dark because it's not whole. It's like doing something synthetic. They don't know really how to dose it. It absorbs so poorly. They're trying to get you to take more. Your body can't even use it. So now you're spending more money. Your body's like, what the heck? It's just so silly. And so with the fluid, using just a couple drops, and you could use another drop if you wanted to. We always want people, we tell people, just start out with less. Less is more. A couple drops would be a dose, and you're a couple bucks a dose. So you have everything that plant has to offer, and you're paying less, which is huge.
Yeah. So I didn't even know about the whole bell curve thing, that if you take too much of the oil, you can actually lose the benefits. That's what you said, correct?
Yeah, it starts to drop off, where it's not possible with the fluid. It's not, you can drink the whole bottle.
Wow.
You'd be wasting money, but you're not going to lose the effect.
Yeah. Well, that just made me think, like, people who are using CBD oil, they don't know if they're taking too much. They could literally be paying for a bottle of CBD oil and then losing all of it on the flip side by So that's kind of I don't want to waste my money. But so talking kind of more about like the pharma stuff, have you seen or do you know anything about how the fluid like will interfere or react with prescription drugs?
Well, you typically don't see, a lot of interference, but we always want to tell people it's hard because if you say, I would rather tell people research on your own. The problem is there's a couple issues with that. Number one, most research is on CBD oil, not CBD fluid, right? Most research that they can seek out. And then if they ask their doctor, let their doctor know I'm using CBD with this, my prescription, is there any blah, blah, blah. Most doctors say, no, it's fine. It's a freaking plant.
Yeah.
But some who don't know what they don't know yet, they could just, to be safe, they're going to cover their hiney and just say, yeah, don't do it. There's some of that out there, but at the end of the day, we have to remember, look, it's a plant. It's a plant. And it would be, are there certain plants that could interfere with a prescription? Yeah. You could research and find something.
Yeah.
But typically no. But if anyone ever has a concern, they certainly could pass it by their doc and let them know what they're doing. But we haven't seen much of that at all. So
right. Yeah. So what about, like, I've seen people say pharmaceutical grade CBD. Is that the isolate too?
Yeah. I don't want anything pharmaceutical grade. I don't want anything made in those facilities, man. I don't want those near my body. So pharmaceutical grade. So when it comes to manufacturing of supplements or nutritional products or whatever, CBD, there's certain types of facilities. The people maybe have heard of a GMP certified. There's different certifications for manufacturing facilities. Pharmaceutical grade is, what does that mean? I don't want that.
Yeah. I
don't want pharmaceutical. I want nature grade. I want God's grade. I don't want this stuff created in a lab. It's really funny because pharma has their own CBD. And depending on what it is, for a month's supply, you can go get a prescription CBD. It's between, depending on what product, between $1,500 and $3,500 per month per user.
Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, that's really going to help our health insurance and everything else, but that's ridiculous. And so they're in the game because they know the cat's out of the bag now. And so what people are realizing, and you can see this, you can even see in the media, like, and not just on social media, like on television, those pharmaceutical ads, those prescription drug ads, we're only one of two countries, Bree, maybe you know this already, in the world that it's legal to even advertise pharmaceutical medications.
I did not know
the
that.
United States is one of two countries. It's not even legal all over the planet. So now, what do you see? You don't see as many prescription drugs. Maybe you see a bunch of them. I shouldn't say that. But what you do see now is a bunch of, if you use this medication, you're probably entitled to a settlement, blah, 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 because that's caught up to us now. And so we didn't know what we didn't know. And now this, it's happening and it's caused all these other issues, but it's follow the money. It is what it is. And so I'm not a conspiracy guy by any means, but just follow the money. Is it good for the body? Is it not? Who did the study? Who's touting this medication or this drug? There's a lot of money involved. And unfortunately, here we are now, forget this virus. Prior to that, we're the sickest generation this country's ever seen. And it's because we're so far away from nature, our bodies weren't meant to have all those things put into our body to try to, to take care of it. Give the body what it needs and let it heal itself. Let it see what it can do. Number one, you want to be strong immune system. Heck, man, we should be talking about this virus that's out there because it's all about your immune system. You have to have a strong immune system. And if your endocannabinoid system is kind of controlling your immune system, Bree, don't you think we need to give it what it needs So we can start out and be preventative. It's not the end all, CBD or hemp, it's not the end all be all, but it is a big piece of the puzzle. And when it comes to the immune system, it's the endocannabinoid system. So you got to make sure your immune system is strengthened or boosted, whatever you want to call it. And the very first step, Bree, in that, the first step is your endocannabinoid system. It's kind of in that control area of that. So you want that happening first and foremost. And then there's, obviously the other things that you're doing, sleep and vitamin C, all these things that you hear, those are all part of our, our immune system, of course. And, friendly gut bacteria. It's we should do a whole nother live on gut bacteria. We could do one of those if you want. But anyway, so don't get me all excited. I get all fired up.
Right. Is it because of the anti-inflammatory properties of the medicine of the plant that makes it so powerful in the immune system, or what do you think?
Well, so just picture there's one by your brain. There's a couple main receptors in the body, and just picture that you have these receptors all through your body, and all of a sudden they're getting filled, right? They've been depleted or dried out, whatever you want to call them, however you want to visualize it. And all of a sudden, this fluid is traveling through your body, and you're filling these receptors. And if your receptors, if your endocannabinoid, your system, your ECS, if that's functioning at a much higher level, now your immune system is starting where it needs. You know what I'm saying? It's like the foundation. So you've got to start there. We have to start there. But you're correct. It is super anti-inflammatory, and that, you can go down the path of a whole, a list of all types of things. But the endocannabinoid system is and I should have done my disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not, all those things is my opinion. I'm telling you right now, from seeing thousands and thousands and thousands of people over the last 20 years, and with this plant, when we started utilizing it 5-6 years ago, we had been testing others, and then we started getting to doctors, and we got it to other facilities, and maybe cancer facilities or whatever in other countries, and in autism organizations. This is it, man. This is where it starts. The gut is a big deal. We've been teaching gut health for so long, and this is part of that too. So it all really goes back to the ECS, the endocannabinoid system first. And that's where everyone, I think, needs to understand, but they don't really know that because it's not taught.
Yeah.
Right. And I think eventually, obviously, in the universities and medical schools, it will be, but they didn't know it existed. So how, it wasn't taught.
Well, and I'll just say this, that, a couple months ago, I didn't know wasn't interested in CBD oil really because I didn't know I didn't have an autoimmune disorder. I didn't have anxiety or depression. I didn't have arthritis or chronic pain or anything, I, for the most part, was, a whole healthy human. And then after learning, these types of things, it's like, I know that I will forever take, and also my kids, I put 2 little drops in my kids' waters in the morning so that they have it in their system as well. But I know that I will forever take it because I've seen all the research of not only CBD, but like we talked about, the CBG, the CBDA, all of those things, and knowing that it's in that whole flower, and knowing that my body needs it. That's one reason why, like, every single morning it's 2 drops, every single night it's 2 drops, or spray. I like the spray as well. But I think a lot of people out there do not understand what they need it for. So knowing that, because they don't know the endocannabinoid system. Yeah. Right. So it's just kind of like whole body health is what it is, for me.
Exactly.
And then the biggest part too is you could Google cancer research with CBD and CBG, and the studies are, pretty incredible. And for that reason, if there's even like a hope, a glimmer of hope that I could help prevent cancer in myself or my kids or my husband, for that alone, I'm going to be doing the CBD and the whole flower fluid every single day, So I want to thank you for your time. Is there anything else that you want everyone to know before we wrap it up, or?
No, I really appreciate you, inviting me on and just sharing some information. And that's really what it's all about, and people need to just continue to take their health a little bit more into their own hands. We love our doctors. It's not about that, but let's be preventative. It's so much easier to be preventative than have to fix an issue after it's occurred. So that's okay. We can, help with that as well, but let's be as strong as we can. Let's build our immune system now more than ever with what's going on out there. But no, it's all relevant. It's all important. And it's, these kind of medias that help us spread this information. And that's really what it's all about, is enlightening people so they can make some change and know that it's okay. There's some simple things. I mean, who would have thought, an endocannabinoid system? We didn't know. People didn't believe, Bree, that how important our food is. Let food be thy medicine. I mean, that's huge. But people, we just are kind of the sheeple out there. But there's an awakening going on right now. So I'm excited about everything that's happening, to be very honest, because I think it's a transformation taking place. I think it's a reset for people. It's just a big eye opener. And that's okay. And there's a lot of amazing positive things that are happening and that will come forth, based on what's going on right now.
Yeah, I agree. There's a huge awakening. And, part of that is that people are given all this misinformation about CBD oil and the benefits and what's in it and why there's, multiple things in a single bottle, when you told us it's fillers, basically. So if you want CBD, you need to have a whole plant. If you want fillers, you can have fillers in your oil. And so like I said, people don't know what they don't know, but now for everyone who is tuning into this and sharing this, now you know better. You know that you can have better. Yeah, you can have better. You can have, you can get, what is the rate of, it's like 500 times more beneficial, right?
Well, it's just because number one, it's absorbed way higher. So there's that,
okay.
And it's the dropper's like 60 to 70%, the sprayer's 90 to 100%. It absorbs way at a much higher level, and it's organic plant. It's the whole flower, the whole plant. That's huge. You know what I mean? And so you just have to have the right pieces. I always ask people when they buy a CBD, hey, Sean, what about this or what about that? And I'm like, turn the bottle around and read me the ingredients for starters. Mm-hmm. And I thought you were trying to buy CBD. What's all this other stuff? And it should be like, we're the fluid. That's what you see. That's what the product is in that bottle. So there's not all these other things added in. And I think people it's just disheartening that they get kind of duped. But it's hard. So that's why we got to educate. Yeah. You need more Breeze out there sharing this info.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a good point too, you guys who are watching us on Facebook. If you'll just share this, because I guarantee you there's someone in your life that is using CBD oil that, or maybe I found this, people are either using CBD oil or they want to know more information about it. And that's exactly what all of this is, okay? Is giving you the right information about what you're using or what you're looking to use and why. If I can say it kind of in the short, snappy version, right? So feel free to share this anywhere, so that it can reach more people and that they can learn. They can learn to know what they don't know. That's my favorite.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Well, then we will wrap it up. Thank you guys for tuning in. And thank you, Sean, so much for your time and bearing with me through all the technical difficulties of everything. You're much appreciated. All right. Bye, everybody.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Peace.
Bye.